Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. I tried to do a Google Hangout tonight, but because of some technical difficulties, I wasn't able to. So hopefully I'll have that problem corrected soon so that I'll be back up with the Google Hangout starting next Monday. I may actually do one tomorrow or whatever um, once I get this problem corrected. So I want you all to be on notice about that. But today I wanted to provide a video response to Conspiracy Dude's thought-provoking video entitled Why Black Men Cry on YouTube. In that video, he talks about how some black men, attack black women and just black people in general. He talked about how essentially these black men have replaced the white supremacists in terms of their hatred, in terms of the derogatory terms that they use to describe black people. You have black men here on YouTube who regularly refer to black people as apes, savages, shines, beasties, and other derogatory terms. And many of these terms white people don't even use anymore. But you have these ignorant black men who have resurrected these terms, who have re-energized these terms, who have essentially breathed life into terms that were lifeless. And now these terms are regularly used here on YouTube. You hear a lot of people calling black people shines, a term that the white man doesn't even use anymore, but these people have resurrected it. So Conspiracy Dude also talked about how you don't have other groups of people attacking their own here on YouTube. I don't see Jews attacking Jews or Hispanics attacking Hispanics, using racial slurs against Hispanic people, or Jews using racial slurs or anti-Semitic slurs towards each other. But here on YouTube, any given day, you will see countless videos of black men talking about how black women ain't shit, and black men talking about how black people aren't shit. So this is what Conspiracy Dude was talking about. He talked about how these black men, instead of attacking the policies that have created the problem in our community, they would rather attack black women. And he also talked about how black men, instead of attacking the issue of dysfunction among black men, these black men solely focus on attacking black women. And he also talked about some other issues. He talked about how it's wrong to essentially go after another group for their problems when you haven't corrected the problems within your own group. And he's talking about black men. So I wanted to take time to respond to his video. It's a thought-provoking video, and I'm glad that he has generated this discussion because it's a discussion that's long overdue. And people have been talking about this for years. They have been talking about misogyny on YouTube. Not only have black women spoke out about this issue, but plenty of black men have. But I think that now is the time to really step up this effort to address these people who attack not only black women, but black people in general. So I'm glad that he started this discussion. And I think that what you have here is a situation where a lot of black men, unfortunately, do not have strong black male role models to follow. They don't have them. It's just that simple. Something that should have been a conversation between a son and his father, or a man and his brother, or a man and his uncle, or a man and some other elder in the community, has degenerated into a situation where you essentially have black men crying on YouTube, expressing their emotions, complaining about problems that they have with women in a public, worldwide forum. And I don't think that that's a sign of manliness. I don't think that that's a sign of what it means to be a man, to attack your women. That's not manliness. It's not manliness for somebody to whine and cry about their personal issues before the whole world. In fact, that's a sign of weakness. In fact, that's a sign of what it means to be a punk. In fact, that's a sign of being very effeminate and emotional. And those aren't suitable qualities for a man. One of the first things that young boys are taught is how to be strong. They're taught not to cry when they're upset, not to cry when they're injured. They're taught to man up, to be strong. Whining and crying on YouTube about someone's personal relationship issues is not a sign of being strong. And in this twisted world on YouTube, essentially people have things backwards. They think that being emotional and attacking women is a sign of strength. That's how a lot of these guys define their manhood. And anyone that does what a man is supposed to do, which is to defend and protect his women, that man is called a simp. That man is called a mangina, because that's the mentality of these people. These people have it all backwards. It's just that simple. I mean, there's no manhood in whining and crying about your problems on a public forum. Real men learn from their mistakes, reflect on their mistakes, and they change their conduct accordingly. Real men, instead of whining and crying in a public forum, what they do is they talk to their brother. They talk to their uncles. They talk to their fathers. They talk to the elders in the community, and they get guidance from them. But see, a lot of these young men, they don't have that kind of guidance. They don't have people that they can turn to for advice on relationships and those kind of issues. Some of them, they don't have a father that they can talk to about how to approach women or how to deal with problems in their relationships. They don't have someone to talk to, so they cling to these figures, these personalities here on YouTube for guidance. And many of these people that are offering relationship guidance are not fit to offer any guidance at all. Many of these people that are offering guidance are people whose lives are in shambles, are people who are not role models for building happy and healthy relationships. Many of these people are single. Many of these people are bitter. Many of these people are angry. They're simply not qualified to give any kind of relationship guidance. If you want guidance in relationships, you need to go to men who have been in real relationships. Men who are married, who have been in long, healthy relationships, long marriages, that know about family life, that know about how to love and care for a woman and how to provide for a family. Those are the kinds of people that need to be uplifted. Those are the kinds of people that need to be guides for, the young people. Not some bitter men who have nothing but issues with women. A man with a lot of problems with women is not suitable to guide others in how to develop productive relationships. And unfortunately, that's the situation. And I'm not saying that I'm some kind of role model or anything like that. I'm not even trying to put myself in that category, because I'm not even in that category. I'm not in that category. The people need to follow examples that are reliable. Examples from those who have been in long-term, healthy, and productive relationships. And unfortunately, that's not the case. Unfortunately, people are without any kind of elders or mentors. So what they do is they go to these YouTube personalities, complete strangers, for lessons on how to Mac and all that kind of stuff, for lessons about women. And most of these lessons are nothing but misogyny on video. That's all they are. So that's one thing that I wanted to talk about. And also another point that I wanted to make is about just the role of a man. Men are supposed to protect and maintain their relationships with their women. They're supposed to protect and maintain their families and their communities. Only a weak man that doesn't have knowledge of self would spend his time, instead of protecting his woman, tearing down his woman. And that's something that Malcolm X talked about. He talked about how the black woman is the least respected and protected in the black community. And it's a damn shame that all these years later, after Malcolm X, that situation is even more true today here on YouTube. That's the situation that we have now. Unfortunately, our sisters are not being attacked by these white supremacists. They're not being attacked by these police. They're being attacked by other brothers here on YouTube. Brothers tearing them down, monetizing hatred against their own women, looking for every opportunity that presents itself to bash the black woman. Every news story, whether it's about entertainment, whether it's about politics, whether it's about some other topic, these parasites will find a way to bash the black woman. That's not what men do. Men are supposed to protect and provide. They're supposed to protect their women in their community. But these people have it ass backwards, and they think that the role of a man is to trash the black woman. They measure their manhood by how brutal they can be on YouTube towards black women. And that's despicable. These people should be ashamed of themselves. But instead of that, instead of being ashamed of themselves, these people are proud, these people are boastful, these people benefit from this toxic environment. People love this stuff here on YouTube. They clamor for this stuff. They subscribe to this hatred of their own women. And it's a damn shame. And this hatred is really just a manifestation of a larger hatred. It's a larger hatred that our people have been taught for quite some time. We've been taught to hate ourselves since the days of slavery. We've been taught to hate ourselves since the days of the minstrel show, when they depicted black people in blackface. Depicted people's literally being painted black with red lips and knotted hair, and had them behaving in a buffoonish and silly and ridiculous kind of way. Through those kind of images, they dehumanize black people. When you dehumanize a people, anything goes at that point. And so instead of just the larger society, the larger white society hating black people internalize the hatred of the oppressor, and they begin to hate themselves even more than their oppressor hated them. And that's the situation we're in right now. We literally hate ourselves, and we value these videos where people are attacking their own people, attacking their own women. These kinds of hate-filled videos receive lots of views, lots of support, lots of thumbs up. And these people that put out these views, these types of videos, they rise in popularity faster than those who try to uplift black women and black people. And I think that that's an indicator of how sick many of our people are mentally. We still have these deep chains in our mind, these chains of psychological slavery. And because of this environment of hatred, this environment of oppression, instead of directing our aggression at the person that put us in this situation, at the policies that put us in this situation, we direct our aggression towards each other. And that's something that Frantz Fanon pointed out in his masterpiece, The Wretched of the Earth. And it's a shame that what he said back then is so true today. Now, another problem with these videos that are hate-filled is that they are based on emotion instead of reason. That's a major problem with these videos. A lot of times you have people that have bitter experiences, people who have bad relationship history, and just pain that they're living with. They have pain that they still have not overcome. They have pain that they have not had a chance to heal from. They have scars that have not healed. So instead of addressing their internal problems, instead of going to counseling, instead of dealing with their issues in terms of their family upbringing, problems with their mother or with their father, they take out their frustrations on black people in general, black women in particular. That's what happens. So instead of using reason to talk about individual situations, what these people do is they project and they use generalizations to condemn an entire race of women, an entire race of people, and an entire race of men, because you have this on both sides now, unfortunately. So what they'll do is they'll draw a conclusion. This is what a generalization is. When you draw a conclusion based on a small sample size, rather than looking at the stats that are much more in line with the typical or average situation. So because someone has had a bad experience with an ex-girlfriend, they take that out on black women in general. They make all kinds of assumptions based on their limited personal experiences about a whole race of women. And that's what's happened here on YouTube. You have people making generalizations saying that black women do not belong with black men and all that kind of stuff based on some personal experience that they had with one woman in their life. And I think that kind of stuff is just illogical, it's ridiculous, and it's silly. And it makes black people as a whole look like complete idiots, look like fools, the black man in particular. I mean, what person is going to respect a man that whines and cries about his personal problems on a public forum? What kind of people would respect a man that doesn't even respect himself or his women or his community? Nobody respects that. Nobody respects a traitor. Nobody. Not even the enemy who uses these traitors against black people. They don't respect no damn traitor. Traitors are the lowest of the low. That's why they have terms like rats for traitors. Now, one point that Conspiracy Dude made, he talked about how instead of changing policy, many of these butthurt, effeminate, weak men just run to social media to complain and whine and cry about their problems. And I think that that's a valid point, but I think that some of the policies that he pointed out as being a problem I think that that's where his arguments were weak. That's where he was weak. He talked about the feminist movement. Black people are not in this position that we're in today because of any feminist movement. That's not why we're in our situation right now. We are in our situation because we have a historical enemy. We have this problem of institutionalized racism in our community. We have the continuing legacy of Jim Crow in our community. We have a huge wealth disparity between black people and white people in this country. We have a criminal justice system that disproportionately um, gives black people harsher sentences, and their so-called war on drugs was nothing but a war on black people, as documented in Michelle Alexander's masterpiece, The New Jim Crow. We have police that disproportionately kill black people. We have schools that have failed our community. Schools that are inferior compared to affluent white suburban schools. We have massive problems in our community. And the so-called feminist movement is not the root of the problems in our community. A black woman being able to work a job for equal pay is not the root cause of the problems in our community. And also, people hype up the welfare state as being responsible for the destruction of the black family. And they rely on this myth of the so-called welfare queen, making it seem as if black women are living it up on welfare. Like black women are living a good life on food stamps and Section 8. These people don't know what they're talking about. And I'm sure that many of these people that spew this garbage, they haven't been on welfare. They don't know what it's like to be on welfare. If they did, they would know damn well that nobody's living it up on welfare. They would know damn well that black women are not eager to be on welfare. They would know that. So this welfare issue, that's not the reason why we're in our predicament. Most black people aren't even on welfare. And many of the single parent households are single parent households where people are not even a part of the welfare state. They're not dependent on welfare. So that welfare system cannot be the sole cause for the destruction of black families. He cited the Loving versus Virginia case as if that's the cause for the destruction of the black family, when it's not the cause of the destruction of the black family. It simply isn't. You had interracial marriages and all that stuff even before Loving versus Virginia. And when you look at the numbers of black people who are actually um, engaged in these interracial marriages and relationships, it's a small percentage of the black community. I think that it's too many, but it's still a relatively small percentage of black women who are marrying outside of the race, and black men as well. So the vast majority of black men and women love and marry each other. They're not in these interracial relationships. I mean, again, there is a significant number, but if you just look at the overall picture, it's not that many black people who are involved in those kind of relationships. So that case, Loving versus Virginia, is not the root cause of problems in our community. And the Great Society programs, those programs make it possible for people to eat. It makes it possible for people to have housing so that they would not be homeless and be without food and basic medical care. So those programs are not the cause of the problems that we face in our community. And I just think that it's an exaggeration. I think that if you want to address policies, then those policies include this so-called war on drugs, how black communities are um, unfairly targeted under that war, disproportionately incarcerated as a result of that war. Many families are literally broken apart because of this war on drugs, where their loved ones are in jail, away from their families, away from their communities, leaving a void that destroys the communities. You have to address the economic conditions that even prompt people to get involved in the drug trade to begin with. Those issues have to be addressed by the larger society. If they can have programs to rebuild Iraq and all these war-torn countries that the United States helped destroy, why can't they have a policy to rebuild these black communities? Why can't they have a Marshall type plan for the black community? You can't raise a family if you don't have money. You can't be a provider and a maintainer of your community if you don't have a job. And in far too many of our communities, there's high unemployment. There's a lack of education in many areas. And until those problems are addressed, you can't even begin to really address this problem of the destruction of the black family, because it's all tied together. Um, so overall, I think that his point about changing policy is valid. I think that the policies that he pointed out are loosely connected to the problem. So I'm going to make a couple of other points and then I'm going to close out. He talked about how a lot of the men that criticize black women forget to criticize black men and their dysfunction. And I have to say that that's not true, because a lot of these guys, even as he pointed out in his own video, a lot of these guys attack black men as well. You know, you have one of these guys that constantly talks about how black men are so stupid. Constantly talks about black men, bashes black men just as much as he bashes black women. That's how a lot of these self-hating coons are here on YouTube. They don't have any problem bashing black men and black women. So I think that that's one point that Conspiracy Dude got wrong in his video. Because anyone who's familiar with a lot of those channels, they do attack black men as well. And Conspiracy Dude pointed out how you can't give advice to another group unless you address the problems within your group, and he's referring to black men. And I think that this notion that somehow by putting out a whole bunch of videos bashing and shaming any group of people, that's not going to create any kind of change. Putting out videos bashing black women for wearing weaves, or bashing black women about diet and exercise, or just bashing black women, period, that's not going to inspire people to change their life. That's not going to make somebody automatically say, well, let me do what this YouTuber is saying. Let me turn my life around. Bashing people is not the way to heal people. It's not the way to build people. It's not the way to change the situation. Many of these people, they're not motivated by any kind of genuine love or concern for their community. They see it as profitable to attack black women, and they want to cash in. It's just that simple. And I think that we need, as a people, we need to embrace and love one another again. That's the only way we can improve our situation. It has to be out of love. Everything that we do for our people has to be out of love. And one point that Conspiracy Dude made is he said that black communities are overrun by simps and manginas. And, you know, I just find it odd that Conspiracy Dude spend all this time attacking these misogynists, but yet he's incorporating their terminology. He's incorporating their attitude in his diagnosis of the so-called problem. The black community is not overrun with so-called simps and manginas. I mean, that term simp, again, is, a ridiculous term. It's basically used to shame people for standing up for black women and protecting black women. And when I say standing up for black women, I'm not talking about standing up for dysfunction or anything like that. I'm talking about standing up against these stereotypes that want to tarnish and attack all black women as a collective. I mean, I think that it's just inherently problematic for black men to bash black women because we are reflections of each other. When you bash the black woman, you bash yourself. And when the black woman bashes the black man, she bashes herself. So those are my thoughts about this whole issue. Tell me what y'all think. Please rate, comment, and subscribe. Peace.